It's time for the Fan Connection presented by AT&T. Every week, we invite you, the listener, to connect with us by submitting your questions. The best way to grow the game of soccer in the U.S. is to keep asking questions and keep talking about this sport we all love. At AT&T, connecting changes everything. And on USLNT, our connections with you will help grow the game. LD, everyone's favorite time of the week, including Jordan's favorite time of the week. Jordan, get on in here.
JR.
Hello.
Yes.
Jordan, what do we got?
Jordan, what do we got?
We've got some NCAA questions. So,
Okay, great.
This first one's a little spicy, so I'm interested to see what you guys have to
spice.
say. This is via email from Brad. It says, I hear so little conversation about the impact that college football in conjunction with Title IX has upon other men's college sports. When a university has to spend the same amount on women's sports as it spends on men's sports, totally well-intentioned, by the way, and 60, 80 scholarships are given to men playing American football, we see the result. Major universities dropping men's non-revenue sports like soccer, swimming, and cross country. What are your thoughts about this? Would it be right to take men's American football out of the Title IX equality calculation, maybe create women's American football programs, or some other solution?
Holy hell, you said spicy. That was just
God, that was a
flamethrower.
Tim, go ahead. You have a daughter in this world.
No, I mean, look, I think Title IX is fantastic, and it gives so much money to women's sports and that empowerment. So, look, I understand the question, right? Because of that, you have the power players and the king, which is American football. It's king in college and it's king in the NFL. It's the most moneymaker by 1 trillion%. So everything then trickles down from there in a really good way. The gray part is that some men's varsity sports are getting cut. The suggestion that we take football out of the equation, okay, but then you don't get nearly as much money coming into the universities, right? Like that money is coming into universities through television rights, through donors and alumni, and they're just not, as Rob Dowd just mentioned to us, they're not paying tons of money for NIL deals for the men's soccer team, right? And so we still need the football money, in my opinion, if there's another way to do it. And I certainly don't like seeing varsity sports get cut. That's difficult.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. The system's broken, right? Like we have to admit that, and very few systems are perfect. So you have to accept that as a starting point. I don't know this world very well, but I do see it. I have seen it. Lots of men's collegiate soccer programs have gone away, and it's just a byproduct of what happens. It's weird because in some ways you want to say let the market dictate what should happen, but the NCAA's mantra is to help all sports, right? And so it probably hasn't worked out the way everyone wanted, but there's enough creative people and there's enough money where there should be a solution. Like sports should not be going away out of collegiate schools. It doesn't make sense, right?
Agreed.
So I don't know the answer. I mean, that's an interesting.
It's a great question.
It's an interesting idea, he said, to take football out, but I would be curious to see what that then looks like.
Yeah, I think the money drops. I don't know if there's even enough money left in the pot to keep.
Yeah,
teams
because
around.
who else? Well, college basketball, perhaps.
Sure.
But then there's not enough money still probably to fund all these things. Yeah,
it's a great question. I appreciate that.
Great question.
And very thought provoking.
Okay, I have one that's kind of more like a statement, but I want to get your take on this. So this is from someone whose name is also Jordan via email. And it says, I feel like in a country like the U.S., trying to utilize a European style of youth development is going to be impossible. If I'm trying to get kids access to soccer, I get American soccer on TV, I encourage school soccer programs, get the coaches the licensing and training they need, and I make college soccer more intriguing. Try to convince a college soccer team to look more professional and turn Big Noon Kickoff into a men's and women's college doubleheader on Saturday afternoon. Lean into the American system rather than trying to copy the Euros. What do you guys think about that?
I disagree. It's a good point that Jordan makes, but we have tried every variation. Landon and I have been a part of this as young players and as parents. Now we've tried every variation almost of trying to create a system. And when you look at how the rest of the world operates, it starts with the professional clubs and then it trickles down. They fund and facilitate. One of the Jordan brings up a good point. Get the coaching. The coaching, youth development coaching in America is poor, and that would be
Disaster.
okay. Yeah, so poor. I thought I was kind of understating it,
It's a
but
disaster.
so we still have to figure out how to get better coaching, and oftentimes when you can streamline it and put it underneath the Everton way, Liverpool way, Manchester United way, and you get these coaches. I mean, it happens all the time in Spain. Each club, and in Holland and Germany as well, each club has a certain style or philosophy, and you start that at the senior team that you see that's playing in Champions League, all the way down to the kiddies and the under nines. They all play the same way and the same philosophy. There's only really one way to do it to have success, in my opinion.
And we just talked about it. The NCAA as an institution doesn't care about soccer. And to be honest, they only care about football and basketball because it makes them a lot of money, right? Let's just call it what it is. So you can't make collegiate soccer that much better unless you have people who are invested and care about it, who are the governing body, right? Which is the NCAA. And, the challenge now with US soccer is that is the governing body. I think people at the top do care genuinely. The problem in our society is there's too many fractured parts of youth soccer in America, and there's no commonality between any of it. And that's where the problems are. When you go to Everton, it's all about Everton, up and down the system. You go to Liverpool, it's all about, and in MLS clubs, it feels that way too. But the Premier League as a whole, the governing body, is all about promoting the sport and making it better. In this country, we don't have people at the bottom who care about the sport and making it better. They care about money. And that's all there is to it. And that's, that's just the way it is.
Well said.
So it's kind of like a catch-22 in a way, because like what this other Jordan is talking about is something that's more suited to a sport that's slightly more popular than soccer is in the country in terms of like the amount of money that's coming in at the professional level. Because
Mhm.
I mean, the NFL is just pouring.
Sure.
There's so much money in there compared to what's in MLS. But
Yeah.
then by the same token, what you're talking about is there's also a problem at the other end, right? For the
Mhm.
the youth and NCAA soccer. So it's kind of like, how do you
Correct.
solve both of those things at the same time?
Well, he's what George he or she is suggesting is that we change the whole system to be American, right? And if that is how it had started here and that's how the rest of the world did it, it would be more accepted. There would be a functionality that would work. And in the women's game, to some extent, it does work, right? And now there's not the influx of money, but it does work that way because that's the way it's been. But that's probably going to change, right? It's probably going to change and go more towards how the rest of the world goes.
Okay, one more question. This one came from X or Twitter, whatever we're calling it now. It's from Gavin. It says Patrick Ajamang made it to the U.S. men's national team, working his way up from Division III college ball. In
Mhm.
your opinion, are college players overlooked or not getting enough attention from MLS? Are there any changes to the super draft that need to happen?
Yes, players get overlooked. What we talked to Rob about this, Rob Dow, and he said 30 to 35% of his players are internationals. What's the players that get overlooked are really the like Ajamang, like a Division III or an NAIA kid. Those kids get overlooked because those are some kids, and Tim and I talked about this before the show started today. Those are kids who were in professional academies till they were 18, maybe then tried to make it as a pro somewhere else for a year or two. But these are good kids, like very good players. Just because they're not as good as the top kid at Man City, they're not Phil Foden, doesn't mean they're not good players. They just don't get signed by Man City. But these are good players. It's less so with Americans. I think Patrick is the anomaly in that way. But there are a lot of international players who then, by the way, can still be signed by MLS clubs out of college and get green cards quickly, could also become American and Americanized. But yeah, we alluded to it with Philly. They don't value the draft, and that's okay because they have a fantastic youth system. But there are a lot of players who get overlooked. There's no question.
I mean, let's pull all of these things together. If I'm an MLS team, right? You and I are MLS owners, right? We own a team together, and we're trying to draft a player. It's not that these college players aren't good. You've been in the LA Galaxy preseason when college players have come in, right?
Mhm.
I've been in New York and in Denver when these college players come in. You're ultimately, LD, getting a 20-year-old player, right, who hasn't played a lot of soccer in the last 5 years. So you've seen it.
Right.
The player's actually, he's pretty good. He knows how to head it and kick it, get it down, play a pass here or there. But overall, he's not a very good soccer player because he hasn't had. So he's gone 5 years almost and played no soccer, like little to no soccer. He's played from like September to November, and then he's asked to come into a MLS team. Which, by the way, it's win now. It's invest in you. Why would we invest in a player who's already past his sell-by date, and we don't even know if we can develop him because he's 20 years old already? Like, does that start to make sense a little bit? And that's why so many, and MLS has tried, by the way. They've had the draft, the super draft, and ultimately the numbers are just like, this isn't pie in the sky. MLS overall, every single team is basically saying, we draft X amount of players out of the super draft, and by year 2, they're no longer with our organization.
Mhm.
If every team's saying that, what's the point of going through that exercise? So,
Well,
wow. Yeah.
let's tie it back to the soccer collegiate landscape potentially changing.
Mhm.
So in that way, as you're talking through that, I'm thinking, okay, there is a chance because now if you're playing year round,
Mhm.
but that's a starting point. The other crucial factor, and I cannot overstate this, is being in the environment of professional soccer versus college soccer. They are complete opposites. When you are a 16-year-old and I went to Leverkusen and the first day I was there training, nobody passed me the ball. And I went to my dad, I'm like, why are they not passing me the ball? And they at 16 years old, and he goes, why would they want you to succeed?
Yeah.
This is their livelihood. This kid's from Bulgaria. He has nothing else.
Amazing.
He needs to succeed here.
Yeah.
That versus going to a college environment where everything's fun and happy and we're bros
Yeah.
and all that, totally different.
Yeah.
And so if you've been a 16-year-old in that environment for 3 or 4 years, you are miles better than a
Totally.
20-year-old who's been
Totally.
playing 3 years of college soccer. Miles. Even if you're not as talented,
Totally.
you're just
Agreed.
hardened.
Yeah.
And you are a
tough.
much different player.
Yeah, that's right.
Good job,
Okay.
JR.
Thank you very much. All right.
All right, we'll see you later.